gonna be honest. I haven't even been out here in like a few weeks. That's because I got some bad news. Kind of. Where the hell is my 10 mil? Ah, there it is. What I'm doing right now is just getting everything totally disassembled, cleaning it, putting fresh oil on it so that when we go to store it, it doesn't get rusty. Now you might be asking yourself, why are you storing it? Weren't you gonna rebuild this motor? Ah, yes. Well, see, it turns out not all LSs are created equal. All the parts are happy in their new home. Got all the pistons, rods, block, trans, cam, crank. So the motor that was in the Volvo, that was an LS6. Now the reason why I bought that motor is because it came with the motor and the transmission for a pretty dang good price. And as it turns out, that transmission actually was a TR6060, not a T56. I know a lot of you guys had told me that, but it wasn't until I was talking to some companies to get parts for the next build on the Volvo that we figured out that it was a TR6060. The people who sold it to me said it was a T56. Well, it's a TR6060. That's a good thing. TR6060s are stronger than T56s, and they also shift better than T56s. But that is why I bought that motor and trans combo. It was convenient, it was pretty good price. I bought it, I threw it into the car. Well, as it turns out, these blocks suck. They're totally fine naturally aspirated, totally fine with a little bit of boost, but when you really try to start pushing them and get into the quadruple digits, they don't handle it. So, my plans on rebuilding the LS6 with forged internals were completely foiled because no matter how much money I threw into that motor, it could really only make another 100 horsepower, if that. And that's not what we want. We want 1,000. So, the plan is to buy a different LS that has a block that can handle high horsepower, rebuild that, make lots of power. Now there are a whole bunch of different LSs that we can choose that have good blocks that will be able to handle more power than the LS6. You know, there's iron block 5.3s, aluminum block 5.3s, iron block 6.0s, 6.2s, the list goes on and on. I haven't exactly decided what we're gonna go with, but the goal is to do an aluminum block 5.3, an LC9. That is one of the strongest factory GM blocks. They can easily handle into the thousands of horsepowers and have been known to shortly last through 18 plus 100 horsepower. But the problem is that since they are one of the strongest GM blocks, everybody wants them. Everybody is charging an arm and a leg for a high mile, crappy aluminum 5.3. Iron block 5.3s are way cheaper, but not as strong as the aluminum block and almost 3 times as heavy. It's really quite unfortunate because if I would have just went with a 5.3 or a different LS from the get-go, the Volvo would be running and driving right now, making close to 1,000 horsepower. But since I went with one of the few LSs that doesn't have that great of a block, I now have to buy an entirely new motor, Bunch of new parts. Got to get different parts for the electrical system because it's a different motor. A lot more expenses go into making less power than we would have hoped. But what can I say? This build has been a huge learning process, and the learning continues. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's unfortunate, but not necessarily a bad thing. You might be wondering why we moved the Volvo into this back corner. It's because we're gonna take a little break on it. Now, this in no way means that I'm giving up on the Volvo. I've already ordered a bunch of parts, already have a bunch of parts, including coilovers, a new shifter, an e-brake. Once the car is put back together, it's going real fast. The thing is that I've been pretty consistently working on the Volvo since December. And now that I have to find a new motor, get all these new parts, it's gonna be more expensive. I just wanna take a short break from it. We've got the Delica that we want to do the camper conversion on. I'm flying across the country to buy a... We're gonna do some different stuff for a few weeks and then eventually get back to the Volvo, make 1,000 horsepower, and go 10s, easy. Hopefully 9s. So guys, that's your Volvo update. The motor we had wasn't worth rebuilding, so we're gonna find a new motor, rebuild that, make more power, but we're gonna wait a little bit. Hey man, yeah, you ready to go fly to St. Louis and pick up that car? Yeah, the flight leaves at 5 p.m. tomorrow, so we have to leave like 3-ish here. Yep, got all the parts to fix it, the tools all in a checked bag. Let's hope it makes the 10-hour drive home. Yeah, I don't know what we'll do if that happens, but we'll have to figure it out. Yeah, okay, sounds good. See you then.